welcome to the Wednesday night. I'm struggling through the days because of all cold and school being out, but the Wednesday night live show here on Inside Texas by Mr. Evan Deep. And got Nash Talks Texas coming in shortly, I believe. But yeah, we're here to talk a little bit of Texas offense, what it might look like. We're going to have Texas go and chase a lot of points. Will you chase, being one of the higher score teams in the country, or maybe a ball control offense? We'll get into that. Excited for this one. So I think you got a lot of different things that you can go off. Because we've seen Texas score a ton of points. We've seen Texas get engaged in some dogfights. And, I don't know which one I prefer. So I'm going to ask Evan. I'm going to ask Nash. But first, go ahead and hop on to InsideTexas.com. Come join the community. New members can sign up for $1 where Nash isn't here to show you this. Nash normally has one of you guys. He's your first subscription to Inside Texas right there in his pocket, and he pulls it up on screen. Come hang out with us, man. It's going to be so much news throughout the offseason. You see coaching news, player news, portal news, recruiting. You got all the fun stuff. So come over there, hang out with us at Inside Texas for $1. Evan, we doing okay, brother?
I'm doing great. Yeah, your point about the days, I kind of thought it was Thursday today for some reason. So I'm glad I'm not the only one who's through this freeze is moving my mind around in the wrong spots.
I asked yesterday. I asked one of my kids, "Is it Thursday?" He'd like, I'm just lost, man. It's lost. Ira's still play a basketball team. Some bad defense and the ability not to play defense without fouling. That definitely costs. Is my audio chippy? Let me know if it is. Is it a little?
It's a little choppy for me.
A little choppy. Okay, I'll get out in a second while Evan starts talking and get back in. But yeah, I mean, guys. Here to talk Texas offense. We'll talk Texas basketball maybe for a few minutes at the end of the show. And so I'll get the audio issue resolved shortly. Appreciate you being here, Chris, as always, my man. But all right, guys, talk Texas offense. You've seen the skill talent. You had Raleek Brown, the Hollywood Smothers, Cam Coleman, if you've heard of that guy. There's plenty of weapons still on the team. Ryan Wingo, Emmett Mosley. And then the quarterback, 16, Arch Manning, that guy. So there's a lot to build around there. First thoughts. Texas all gas, no breaks. Is this going to be a style of play, Evan, from this offense where they're just trying to go out? Maybe they use tempo. Maybe they just try to light the house on fire, series in and series out. What are your expectations for the way that Texas kind of attacks? Is it going to be multiple? Is it going to change weekly depending upon the game plan and who you're facing on the other side of the football? Just share your thoughts with us, brother.
Well, I think what Sark would like is that multiple idea. Everything, all the above that you're kind of talking about here is we can do this thing well and we can do this thing well. And we know that's usually not how college offenses work. But I think we're going to get a few more of those. And by a few more, I mean two of those blowouts this year. That really, you didn't see it at all last year, apart from the Sam Houston game where you saw Arch finally put it together and out of conference. You didn't see Texas blowing out teams. So I do think you're going to get some of that in the case of they're going to put up a lot of points in those out of conference games because the level of play on this team is just really high. But I do think this is going to be a team that when we get late in the year, the ball control is really going to start being important for Sark. And ball control is something that Cam Coleman, like Chris is bringing up, can really benefit for. But I think this is where you're going to start seeing these two tight ends more and actual run dominance be something that Sark tries to lean into for that second half of the year. And when you need to beat LSU in Baton Rouge as opposed to, UTSA or some of these lesser SEC teams.
Well, that's a good point, man. I would imagine you kind of see where you're at. You push the envelope a little bit more. Obviously, on conference games like you talk about, we've seen all the fireworks, man. You probably, see a few more deep shots. But then it comes to games like Ohio State. You go on the road at Neyland Stadium for your fifth ball game of the year. That's the time where, I expect some more ball control. Texas plays it a little bit safer. But is that for the best for 2026 Texas on the field, Evan? Is that, in your opinion, is that what you would do if you're the OC, if you're the head coach at Texas? Are you scared of a track meet? Or do you really, really want to lean on a Will Muschamp defense?
I wouldn't be so scared of the track meet because I think that when you think of what you need to have to win a game like that on your team, first of all, a lot of the track meet type of games, your 40 to 38 wins are which team gets the turnover, which I think your team does have that. They're going to be more capable of doing that this year. Just Colin Simmons pass rush, a few more kind of press man coverage looks you're going to see. And also, do you have a quarterback that can make plays on his own, and do you have receivers that can support that idea? And I'd say yes to all that. I mean, you have a quarterback who, even when pressure is bad, can still make plays, especially late that A&M game. You saw Arch doing that. And now we'll see with Laurent Seymour's eligibility, which if you guys haven't gone and saw what Joe wrote, I mean, Joe went really in-depth, did a lot of research on how this new guard, how he can get that waiver eligibility, kind of first of its kind. But if you get that, then you no longer have weak links on your offensive line, and that's super important. So that's a way that Texas can go and win these shootouts with teams. I would like for them to do it in a game or two this year. I want them to win in multiple ways. This is what we keep seeing from title teams. Is they find way to win. They find ways to blow out good teams, but also when it's close and one part of your team's not working, they can find ways to win that. I mean, not like Indiana blew out Ohio State in the conference championship game, but then in other games they were destroying Oregon. So I would like a game where they are out offensing a team, but you're going to have to win some of these games where you're running the ball late, you're using 12 personnel. Think of the way that they closed out against Alabama with Jonathan Brooks. Like, they're going to have that. And that hasn't been on the roster these past 2 years. I think it might be on the roster now, which gives me some hope.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Stylistically, I would like Texas to be able to do everything, right? I mean, obviously, that's easier said than done. You have an offense that's capable of running tempo. You're able to take deep shots. You're able to have a few play drives. But then again, there's a lot of benefits to keeping the defense on the field for a long time, playing ball control. Do you think Texas is going to be able to run the ball between the tackles as well as they'd like to play and really maximize the ball control offense?
I think they're going to major in outside zone. I think that just works better for all the guys that you have on your team. I think Siani especially, that's just a big mover of a human being, and you have the fast guys going to the outside, hitting holes there. I think that's what they're going to try to do for most of the time. I'm more confident than I was the last 2 years about them being able to ground and pound up the middle, but I know our fans don't love reading, and I'm not the only one who said this. I think Eric made a joke out of it that Arch Manning's the team's best power back. So yeah. I'm concerned about that. I do think that you have ways to win on 3rd and 1s and 4th and 1s, but I've been someone who's advocated for the idea of I'm not against them getting or have gotten a really 1-year mercenary. You're going to get 8 carries this year, maybe not 8, but 25 carries this year, and they're all 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, 225-pound back. So I'm concerned about that part of the equation, but it should be better. And Paul on our boards have been a big proponent of just being a little bit better than terrible goes a long way. Just being average at things. And I think Texas can be at least average at a lot of things on offense, which there's plenty that they weren't average on the last 2 seasons.
Would you agree with this comment here from our good friend? Thanks for watching. I don't know how to say your username. Is that Starthick? I don't know if I should have said that out loud, but hey, thanks for watching. Do you agree with this comment here? Most complete offensive roster we've had under Sark?
That's a good question. I think you go back and forth between what you have now and when you had Worthy and Mitchell kind of playing on the outside. You had Whittington. That's a complete receiving core. Now, that iteration didn't have the depth on the team, but they also had a bit more establishment on the offensive line. I would say it's close between those two coming into the season of 23 and 26. Maybe the star power is better on this team. I think maybe Coleman, Wingo, Arch is probably going to have a better season than Ewers, Worthy, Mitchell, maybe better NFL players, but I still think that O-line was so good coming in that I'll give the nod to the 23 team just for now before we can see really what goes on in this offseason.
No, that's well said. And then you also have to capture the backfield and how many guys contributed. They all kind of, complement each other really, really well. Obviously, this is a, Jonathan Brooks and his ability to run between the tackles, but also off the edge. The way that you could get Jaden Blue, Keelan Robinson, those guys out into the flats and into the passing game. It's tough. That's a really good question, man. Again, thanks for watching. Like on the video if you don't mind. But, yeah, that's a good point here. Arch, in my opinion.
I was trying to bring that up. I think the blocking tight end's huge. You're right. And maybe Gunnar Helm could have been that, but especially that year, he wasn't quite there. But that's why I was kind of saying the top line talent is probably there because Arch brings that dynamic that Ewers didn't have on the ground, and you're a little bit deeper as a team. But when you're talking 1 through 11 starters who I think are all really good football players, I do think just because I don't know what the guards are at Texas right yet, is Baker going to be a good guard? Is Seymour even on the roster? I can't quite give the nod to this team, but it's so close here.
It's really close, and he makes another good point. obviously JT Sanders was a guy that could really get out into the passing tree and really hurt some teams. You saw what he did in Tuscaloosa, man. He had a couple of really big catches there over the middle in that fourth quarter of the Alabama game, and plenty of other times. But again, can Townsend or Masumas, are they going to be able to provide something along the lines? It's not going to be exactly what JT provided in the passing game. But yeah, I mean, it's a really fun question. And that's definitely the two of Sark's offenses that are at the forefront. So yeah, really good question again. And now Arch may be the difference overall. Kim Coleman may be the best of all of these receivers between an A. Mitchell and Worthy. Now we'll have to see. That's not to knock Xavier Worthy, who did really dang things in Austin. But yeah, again, a fun question. It'd be fun to revisit that. Maybe we make that a whole offseason show as its own and get into it. But it would help a little bit to know exactly what the eligibility situation is for Mr. Seymour on that. But fun question there. What about?
Yeah, I was just about to say what Chris said. Here's my thing, Chris. Coming into the season, if you're giving it back, so that I'd maybe agree with you, but I wasn't super enthused on the idea of Quintraven Wisener being an RB1, and he was good, but I think 2 years later, you're kind of seeing why that was the case. And then we didn't know what Matthew Golden was going to be coming in. I didn't know what to expect from him, because you got to remember, he didn't do a lot at Houston, and most of his production was against Texas in one game. So I thought Bond would be good. I thought we'd have a good running game, especially with Backshot. I thought we had an experienced quarterback, a good O-line, but the wide receiver 2 was really up in the air, and it ended up being pretty bad at the end of the year when Golden was the only one really catching passes, and I didn't know what Helm was going to be. So I think coming into the year, that's not the answer. Neither is 25, but 23 or this year are surely the two in my eyes that I think are the most complete.
I mean, Sark has really put in some talent on the offensive side of the ball, obviously the defensive side as well. But when you look at the decade of despair and what it looked like on offense sometimes with Charlie Strong and Tom Herman, the lack of playmakers over the receiver, the inconsistencies to field a quarterback, the running back room under Tom Herman was in 2018. Obviously we're moving quarterbacks into the running back room. Be appreciative for Steve Sarkisian. I know we give him a lot of flack. Some of us, not all of us. You know what I mean? And of course, you can critique, you can question a coach all you want, but to pretend that this is the same type of era that we're in. I know we're all wanting offensive alignment. We're all wanting a national championship, or hell, even a college football playoff semifinal win. Man, he has really escalated the talent on that side of the ball. Man, it's hard not to think that Texas at least plays for a national title if JB doesn't go down against TCU on somewhat of a dirty tackle. Because, the fumbles third quarter against Washington is kind of what handicapped that game for us. I mean, I don't know about a national title. Michigan's going to be really tough, but, man, JB was pretty dang tough himself. Michelle says the O-line has motion. Michelle will be back on the channel next Wednesday, guys. How do you feel about an offensive line that has potentially added Lawrence Seymour? Let's treat him like he's in the fold, because I will say, to get this far down the road, it kind of feels like, Texas probably has a good idea about where that situation is at. Maybe I'm wrong. But just reading the tea leaves on that, it's like, man, we got him signed. I obviously presented some type of NIL package and making plans with the guy to be on the roster. So, but yeah, in your mind, what does that add to Texas, or add to the roster do for Texas?
Yeah, we got a guy fighting the law, Michelle. What's better than that? But I do think that they don't bring this guy on unless they feel confident. That doesn't mean I'm making any guarantees, but that's my read on things, and I think a lot of our reads on things. But he was named an FWAA second team All-American this past year. Guy who pretty much exemplifies some of the good of the transfer portal. Good recruit from Miami. Doesn't really play his first 2 years. Played some, and he's like, you know what? I need a new spot. And now in his last year, he's finding his way through the G5 ranks and up to Texas. It's all about what happened in that 2023. But as a player, it fits that flood ideology if we want a good pass blocker before we have a good run blocker. And I think they felt like they can move with their tackles, but they need to make sure that the interior is good in the pass game, because you saw last year, even when it was Hudson Robertson, left guard center was still a problem. And now that's asking Robertson to step up, sure. But exactly. I mean, you work on this behind the scenes until you're confident. And then once you feel confident, you start to make a more public move. But yeah, this is a guy who pass blocks well. 1,400 career snaps, I think. I think they're about 60% higher snap count going into the year now with this 6 than they had of the 7 they used last year. So you just needed someone that there was no drama around it. It's not he's changing positions. It's not, oh, we love this guy's stars and his athletic profile, but we haven't really seen him play football. It's, hey, we know this guy can play good football. It's okay that he played a level lower. He's not going to be elite for Texas, but he's just good, and he's an experienced player. And felt like we were pulling our hair out asking for that for the last year or two at guard, and really last week or two. And you're finally getting it, which is nice. And I think if it works, you have a good O-line without a weakness. And Paul's been great about writing about that. I linked a video in our chat. I watched today a video about the weak link in the NFL and how much having your third best offensive lineman means more than having your best offensive lineman having a good game and your worst. So Texas having 3 good O linemen and then another 2 passable sounds great to me. I
mean, yeah, we watched what we watched last year. Sounds fantastic. Now I'll say this: is my audio choppy? Is it work itself out?
Just a little bit. It's a little better than it was earlier.
Well, let's do this real quick. We'll go to the first commercial break. We're going to hear from Luxe Kitchen and Bath. Evan, I'm going to hop right back in, but I should be back before Luxe gets done telling the good word over here. And here's a word from Luxe.
Are you ready to love your kitchen and bathroom again? Luxe Kitchen and Bath will bring that to life. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring your dream vision to life. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team also provides full home remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today, or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get your free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's LUXE, or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Contact info is in the description.
There you go. Hoping the audio is a little bit better. Hopefully, at least a little bit. Sabotaging the stream so I can draw up more flag football plays is honestly definitely something that I might do. So I do like that you're calling me out on that. I got to keep me honest. What's up, Chris? Good to see you in here, my guy. And I wanted to touch on this real quick, but Clemson and Dobbs Swinney won a couple of national titles with really, really good quarterback play, really, really good D-line play, mostly overall really good defensive play. None of those offensive lines that Clemson had in their stretch where they kind of caught up to, blue blood status for a moment, they're not world beaters, not one single time. Very average offensive lines. And so that is where I find comfort. I can't calm down because you have some elite talent at skill positions. At the skill position, you have guys. You have Ryan Wingo who runs like a running back, but is really damn fast. You obviously know the talent of Cam Coleman. He can go win a 50-50 ball. Just seeing all the clips of Cam Coleman over the last couple of weeks since he committed, going up and winning a jump ball, and I'm just like, man, like when is the last time we had a guy outside of Adonai Mitchell, Colin John, he looks really dang good, high pointing a football against a defender. That's what pretty porous quarterback play. We got to call it what it was. But on those Clemson teams, man, like they ran the football with they had good backs, never really great backs out of ETN. But I mean, like, it's just Texas kind of fits that blueprint right now. Seems to be a little better, maybe skill talent-wise than those Clemson teams. But man, just put together an offensive line, like Evan was saying, talking about Paul, just somewhere close to average. It doesn't have to be world beaters because Arch Manning, Cam Coleman, his backs, you can do a lot of things with scheme that kind of hide or protect that offensive line, but it actually can make their jobs just a little bit easier. And so I'm curious to see how, Sark uses all these guys, how he blends and, meshes all this talent together. And who knows? Do you think Texas is done adding offensive lineman Evan, assuming that Mr. Seymour is indeed eligible for another year of play?
I'm going to say, yeah, I think, these teams try to get to 8 offensive linemen that they trust. And I can see a pretty clear 7 with the starters if Seymour works out, Coho, Sikorsky, and then, Chapman, Sikorsky, and then probably Kojo, Coho, or Jackson Christian is good enough in year 2, or one of the Coleman guys. I mean, probably a little selfishly, maybe Kyle Floyd just thinks he can develop one of these first or second year guys to be usable this year. We'll see. I think this is it. And I don't know if that's exactly what I want. I would love some fifth-year guy who's snapped the ball 1,000 times, who doesn't really care about what level of play or how much he plays. He just wants to be on a good team and get a good education to come to Texas and be a backup center. But, I think any addition now on the portal is pure luxury, pure depth, like the center or running back that I mentioned earlier. And then on your point about O-lines, was Indiana's O-line like that good? I mean, they're going to have probably two guys that are going to be NFL players on that on the offensive line, and Carter Smith, and Coogan's good, but Coogan didn't get great NFL notice, and he said, "All right, I'm going to go to Indiana instead." You can make it easy on your O-line, and sometimes Sark doesn't make it easy on his O-line, but yeah, that Clemson analogy is great because it's good quarterback play, a great D-line, and great secondaries that kept them winning national championships when that was not a program to know about until Dabo Swinney got there.
Right. And I mean, Clemsoning was a real thing until, it wasn't. I guess we can kind of bring it back up again because they've lost the games in pretty funny ways. But, I can't say I agree with this one. Hold on. If we were 2019, first off, that's a really good thing. 2019 LSU was pretty dang decent on the football field. But don't disrespect Clyde Edwards-Helaire like that, man. I mean, he's pretty good back. And again, when you can pass the ball downfield, when you can use every inch of grass the way that LSU team could, running the football gets a lot easier, okay? So that I would love to see a situation where we go out and we're attacking via the spread and throwing the ball to run the ball. Help out that interior, that offensive line a little bit. We'll have a little bit of a running game. It just might not look like it did with a Bijan Robinson and a Roshan Johnson where you're running inside zone and you're running duo at himself and others on inside Texas. Said, you're probably going to be an outside zone team. Personally, that scares me. I don't love outside zone. Now, if you're really good at it and you have the personnel for it, sure, you go and what your personnel can do best. Personally, I like a little bit more between the tackles as far as our base and our most trusted concept. Finally excited to see what Cam can do after the catch. Want to see him some yak in this off. And that's the one thing, man. We're watching Cam Coleman, who is, with all due respect to that program at Auburn, one of their only real threats on the offensive side of the ball, was getting a ton of attention, a ton of extra special looks from coverages, from the defensive coordinators. It's kind of watching his highlights. It's going to be really weird to see him running in wide open green grass. And we know Sarkisian can get these guys in open space. And the next, there's no one left on the screen. So what are your kind of thoughts on Cam Coleman? And obviously we've been raving and ranting about his ability to go up and win a 50-50 ball, his ability to win in the red zone. But what about his ability to take a top off the defense, man?
Yeah, I don't know how many of y'all read my article or saw the tweets I had about Coleman from that Vanderbilt game. That was a fun one to put together because he wasn't that great in the first half, and then he kind of just started taking over in the second half. One of the things that I didn't really include, but I mentioned was, hey, Coleman had a lot of these 7-yard spacing routes and little, they're not even quite slants because it was so quick to him where he wasn't generating a lot of yak, but it helped out a lot because they were getting 6 yards on first down, or he'd get a first down on a third down like that. And that was nice for them. There was one play he had where he had some yak in there, but what really stood out was he had the one catch where he goes up and mosses the dude, and then on the 2-point conversion, same play, one-handed down at his leg, and it's like that's just 8 points out of nowhere that you can't teach anyone how to do that. That's just God-given talent right there. But as for yak, what's funny about Coleman is yak per catch. I think he was either last or second to last in the SEC. I think it's like him and Brazel. And then you're looking at the overall yak he had, still pretty low despite having a lot of targets. But his missed tackles force was really high. He could break the tackles. It's just that a lot of times there would be another tackle coming. So if he's able to break another 12 tackles this year, that's probably going to come more one-on-one against players when you have Ryan Wingo on the other side and you have the threat of a run and Arch Manning's throwing the ball. So yak's a lot of times a quarterback stat, and that's why Jackson Arnold is playing at UNLV this year, because they didn't give him a lot of chance to go out into space. But when he wasn't getting a lot of yardage, but he's hard to tackle. He's a big player, so he could get people to kind of shrug off and then keep going. I think you're going to be surprised that you see one or two plays this year where he runs for 40 yards instead of goes up and catches a ball 40 yards down the field.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It sounds like, from everything you just said, it sounds like Cam Coleman can do a lot of different things. And that's the complete package at wide receiver. If you had to, just off the top of your head, rank Cam Coleman and his ability amongst past Texas wide receivers, give me maybe a comparison, or how high are you kind of putting him up your ranking order?
I mean,
So
the 80 Mitchell comps, it's so easy, but it is there. It's the one-on-one outside winning receiver. I think he could be better than 80 was for Texas, because 80 would, you lose him in some games. He'd take off snaps. And my favorite thing about Coleman is he did the whole, like, I forgot what movie it's from, but the getting up thing. Like, he likes to aura farm, as the young kids say, but he's not much of a diva or anything. Like, all that stuff was going on in Auburn, he was quiet. And so I think you're going to have a little bit less concerns about his effort in these games, and that's going to be nice. And he'll probably be able to get involved a little more than just pure streaks and posts and comebacks that an AD did. And so I'm excited for that. I think he's going to be an echelon above him. I think he's probably going to be the best draft prospect they've had since what Limas Swede, wasn't he a pretty high first rounder? I don't know how many guys are going to get drafted in the Texas wide receivers that he's going to have worse draft capital than. I think he's probably going to be a top 15 pick.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not trying to put the cart ahead of the horse here, but he has potential to be the best receiver Texas has ever had, and Roy Williams is pretty dang good. But obviously, it's modern day football. Cam's a little bit more athletic. Cam's got a little bit better 50-50 balls. And then, all due respect to Roy, he did not have a spread offense led by Steve Sarkisian or Art Bannon throwing the football. No disrespect to Major, a little bit of disrespect to you, Chris. Sorry about that, but it's just hard for me to not get really, really excited and thinking about what he's going to look like in this offense. It's a great comment. I look for really Ricky Williams if Joe Burrow was my quarterback. We all would, buddy. And again, I do think, Edwards-Helaire, I don't think he only ran for 200 as Mr. Johnny. Maybe you're talking about somebody else, my friend. But
he was 1,100
maybe
rushing like that.
No, to say, yeah, man, he had really dang good at that Alabama game, that high scoring. But no, I definitely agree with this comment, man. That's my worry about outside zone. Is that if you have a team that is really, really good at setting the edge, do we have an ability, or do we have a runner with the ability to hit that cutback, find that crease, and just go?
I want to say that's something Hollywood could do on the cutbacks. It's just that he's going to be running a bit different of a system. They did like to run inside a lot at NC State, so that's a change for him. And I'm not quite as versed with Stiani, what he's good at, but I do think it fits the theory of the players. You have blocking tight ends, outside zone targets, defensive ends who are smaller, and nickel cornerbacks, and you're looking to get your tackle who's athletic and your tight ends who can block out forward and into space, not let your guy get hit at the line of scrimmage. And then once the spot opens up for the cutback, then you take it. Wisner was good at this, probably better than people gave him credit for, but he wasn't great at it. I think Smothers, again, theoretically, he hasn't shown it that much, but I think he can be that guy. And then Brown's going to have some straight line speed he's just going to hit the spot on the outside faster than defenders, and that's going to be really nice. But I really do think Smothers is a great back. Like I'm just going to be a little more optimistic than I think some people are about the run game, because I think he's just that good, and he's going to be a good player for this team.
I'm hoping you're right, man. You and Pat were incredibly high on Hollywood Smothers on the last show that we did together this past Thursday. And it just really kind of felt, like he would RB1 for Texas. And I will agree with you, man. I think they both have the ability to cut back. But once you cut back and you find a crease, can you run with toughness, maybe break a tackle there? Because that's where you see those big, long runs come. You see a cutback, you see one shed tackle, and then there's a lot of room. Excited to see these backs, man, because it's an upgrade from where we were at last year. Crash Out crew in the house. Been part of a pretty fun group chat on Twitter, and occasional crashing out, particularly about portal offensive line recruiting, and it's always fun to be in there. Again, bringing that up, Coleman did have, Peyton Thorne, had Jackson Arnold. A little bit different now for him. Well, I'm a second-round pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Cam Coleman
Chris,
is the
reason I brought it up is I was like, what Steelers fans hate this guy. Like he must have been a first round, right? I couldn't remember or not, but that's before I really knew the draft. I mean, I was 5 when he got drafted. I think maybe like 6, but yeah, that's why I made that connection.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing to knock Limas, but talk about being benefited by playing with Vince Young, having Ramon Taylor out there, having Jamal Charles, Selvin Young, Quan Cosby, like some of these guys, and obviously a very capable offensive line. There's no disrespect to Limas, but I can guarantee you defenses went out there week in and week out, and Limas was going to be one of the very last concerns just because he had to be. You have to take away and try to take away the Texas running game, Vince Young and his scrambles, before you worry about anything else. But, man, that catch that Limas made against, I think it was Colorado, one hand in the back of the end zone, pretty dang good throw. And obviously the one against Ohio State too. It's not knocking Limas because he made some big time plays for Texas. Shipley is the best wide receiver in Texas history. I don't think that's, anybody could argue that. Let me ask you, Chris, ask you as well, Evan, where would you put Xavier Worthy on that list? Because I think he's a lot higher than most people.
Yeah, it's hard. Like the big thing with Worthy is how do you rank the Duvernay group of players that like Duvernay, Lil Jordan? Because I know Duvernay probably had the best season singularly, at least yardage wise. I think he was at like 1480 or something like that. But like, how far would he be off third? Like, who's your number 3 here? And that's kind of how I feel about Quinn too. It's like, is Quinn just the third best because it's either he or Ellinger, and he did more than Ellinger and is ahead on some things. It's hard with this era, the pre-true national title contender era of the Sark, because if Texas does go on and win that title soon, then not forgotten, but a lot of those players get kind of pushed backwards in the history books. So I think you can make the argument that Worthy's up there at number 3. I'd have to like go look at a list again and remember the names, which I'm trying to pull up as we speak, is why I'm stalling this. But I'm comfortable with 3. Let's hear what Chris has to say, and you, Cord, as well. Yeah, Mike Adams is third in receiving yards.
Yeah, Mike Adams was a dog for sure. Shout out to I think he had a touchdown of that 96 Big 12 championship win over Nebraska. It was the first time I think I heard Mr. Adams' name. I was young, man. That's what hooked me on Texas football, was that game. Watching that. I had one previous Texas football experience before that, and it was going to Waco and watching Texas lose to Baylor, which was fun. A really good time. But no, so in my opinion, man, and I am pretty dang high on Xavier Worthy in his time at Texas. I think he made it really, really hard for defenses to stop some Texas backs who were pretty dang good at that time. Obviously, you're talking about having a Bijan and a Roshan, and then you have the guys we mentioned earlier. And with that being said, welcome Nash, and better late than never. My guy's here, man. What's up, brother?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I was having some issues getting on, but we made it.
You're great. You're great, man. I hate to do this to you. We're gonna go to commercial real quick, and then we'll come back and we'll have a half hour to talk offense. Let's hear a quick word from David McClellan.
Big financial decisions don't have to feel overwhelming. There's someone who can guide you every step of the way. David McClellan is a fiduciary financial advisor with Forum Financial, and he's working closely with his clients as a true financial life coach, guiding every aspect of your financial journey with expertise and care. If his name sounds familiar, that's because David was a swimmer at Texas and a member of several national championship teams. Today, he channels that same championship mindset into helping people win with their finances. David specializes in financial planning, and he's contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. And right now, David is offering viewers a free intro consultation to assess your financial situation. Do not miss this chance to get personalized guidance from a trusted expert. To schedule your free consult, email David at dmcclellan@forumfinancial.com, or you can call him directly at 312-933-8823. The contact info is in the description.
Alrighty, guys, and again, welcome Nash to the show. You've seen Nash on here every Wednesday night for the last, I don't know, feels like 10 years, Nash. We've been doing this one and doing a good job. Nash, I asked Evan earlier, stylistically, what do you expect Texas to do offensively? Do you think it's go, score 50 points a game? Are you wanting that type of offensive attack? Or would you rather see more of a ball control that you saw the last couple of years, really leaning on that defense, hopefully with a very much improved red zone offense, and maybe a decision to take 3 points a little bit more than we have in the past? But what are your thoughts on that?
I think you kind of heard Steve Sarkisian talk about it when he was talking about the addition of Will Muschamp. He was talking about, hey, he kind of has more. They're going away from that bend but don't break defense, where they're allowing the opposing team to hold the ball more often. I think there's going to be a mix of, ball control, trying to hold the ball, but also I do think they're going to be a lot more aggressive on offense. I as somebody that was really upset that we didn't take the points 2 times in Columbus, I don't have a lot of faith that Steve Sarkisian is going to sit there and, pass up on a point. I think he's going to go for it. This is a guy that I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, but coming into this year, he was 100% of the time. If it was 4th and 2 or less on our side of the 50, he's just going for it. It's not even a question. He's going to go for it.
I mean, and I'm all about aggression. I mean, I was a high school offensive coordinator for several years, and I was probably really dumb with a lot of the decisions that I made. And so maybe my line of thinking is a little bit skewed. Maybe I'm just wrong, but I like Sark's aggression in the red zone on fourth downs. I like it when what you're talking about, Nash, you're doing it around midfield. I don't like it when you have no ability to run the ball between the tackles. When you do not have a back that can break a tackle. That is when, I have issues with it. Then you obviously, you have a little bit of a penalty maligned offensive line. Those are the types of things that will start causing me to slow down, dial it back a little bit with the aggression. Maybe Evan's right. Maybe, you're right, Nash, but I don't know. I'm hesitant with Arch Manning and Cam Coleman and just thinking like, okay, let's ball control. Let's sit on this a little bit. I just think there's a little bit more of an upside there. And again, maybe I'm just being, I'm just overly worried that, hey, we're going to sit here and try to win games 10-7 instead of lighting the scoreboard on fire at times. But again, I mean, it's the offseason. Long way to go before we get there. Going back to the comments real quick, I don't know if y'all remember, well, last September on this show, dude, I was begging for 3 or 4 yards on first down. Please, that felt like Christmas.
I know.
We were losing yards on first down. We were picking up a yard or two at most.
Game, Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll be honest, man. Like with Arch Manning, when we got to third down and long, he did better on third down and long than third and short. So I'm not gonna lie, I almost felt a little bit more confident when we lost some yards on first down. I'm like, okay, here we go, we're getting into this.
Saying and Johnny, again, another good comment. Like, yeah, it's simple, but yeah, you need a run game to keep Arch from getting beat up. You had people out there running around screaming Arch was injured early in last year because he wasn't throwing the ball super well, and then you did see Arch get beat up in the Florida game, in the Oklahoma game, Kentucky game, and I think we can keep on going down the list. You saw Arch Manning get knocked around a lot, and sometimes it's him scrambling, sometimes it's just he's getting rid of the ball and just because he has to, he's getting rid of it very quickly and then taking hits. Got to be nice to protect that guy. And so again, I think that's why Texas may not be done taking offensive linemen, just because, like Evan talked about earlier, adding depth. You want to have options. If your options do not work out, as Texas, a lot of the options did not work out in 2025. Obviously, talking about mostly the guard position. But yeah, you got to have a back, and hopefully, now hopefully we have 2 backs. I don't remember. Oh, I do remember now. Limas getting hurt in 07. Now that you mentioned it, Chris, that's a good point. I should have known, man. You're always going to remember everything when it comes to this stuff. Absolutely. Talking Bijan fourth behind Ricky, Earl, and Said. That's one thing. I'll get y'all opinions as well on this. Imagine Bijan playing 4 years, and then as a freshman getting the football, and then also Ricky, Cedric's teams. I'm assuming Earl's. Not sure for sure on that, but they were a little bit better than what Bijan had. The O lines a little bit better than what Bijan had. And so, yeah, they're dog. So yeah, it's hard for me, like, because those are all super talented guys, man. And I'll get
Jamal fourth because of the natty and then 1,600 yards. That's the one.
I mean, Jamal Charles, Kansas City Chiefs all-time record holder.
Bang. See, that's the thing. Are we going by ability or are we going by what they did at Texas? Because Jamal Charles is my favorite Longhorn ever. So I'm going to stand for this guy for a long time. I just loved his ability to run the football. Dude, if he got a step, he was gone. You weren't seeing him again. He was really good in the passing game as well. I'll never forget the drive before halftime at 2005 Ohio State. We scored early. We scored 10 points on our first 2 drives. Ohio State kind of puts Vince in a box after that for a while. And then Jamal Charles, I think he had 2 screens on that drive that led to 3 points right before half. And it kind of slowed Ohio State's defense, their defensive front down just a little bit. And still, that's a true freshman from Port Arthur coming in the second game he's ever played and stepping up and making plays against a really, really, really good defense littered with NFL players. And so, just kind of explaining my love for Jamal there. But, that's tough. You could go all day long talking about the backs, who belongs where. Receivers a little bit more clear. We kind of touched on that a little bit earlier. But yeah, that's the thing, man. Worthy hit the ground running. Tech, 3 touchdowns. That's 70-35 whipping at DKR. And then you talk about the Oklahoma game and how awesome and how special he was in that one. can't believe we lost that game, man. I can't believe it. That opening touchdown to Worthy was so electric, and that stadium just, kind of like the crowd pop that we had with Ryan Niblett this year and his punt return touchdown. Same type of deal, man. And then you had it again after OU made their rally, went up a touchdown, and then Casey Thompson hit Xavier Worthy deep on a route to tie the game up. I mean, that was a really, really cool freshman season and honestly career from Worthy. I know he had the issues as a sophomore, but yeah, man. I mean, it's kind of crazy that he didn't. We were force feeding him the ball a lot. Did he miss a game late in the year? Did he miss the Kansas game, or did he play in that? Either of y'all remember?
No, he played.
Okay.
He had
He
like
played
24 targets or something like that. It was.
I'm about to say one of those games was silly.
It was a ridiculous amount of targets. I'll look it up, but it was. I think he had like 17 receptions on 24 targets. It was just like a stupid number.
Yeah.
Yeah, 14 for 152 and 3 against Kansas.
And I'm asking if he played in the game. I was there, unfortunately. Really
I did. I that was one of those games that I made a point to. I saw some people leaving the game, leaving early, and I was like, you know what, this is one of those ones that I just gotta sit there and take my medicine and stand there and sit there after, just watch Kansas celebrating on the field. This is a pain that I need to remember.
That's about Stephon Diggs' moment. You're just chilling, watching the confetti.
Yeah, no, literally, you're just sitting there yep, this is life.
That's the last game I was able to go to my freshman year of college. We couldn't talk. We had no idea what just happened.
I had the only Kansas fan in the state sitting behind me. I was like, "This is great." I shook his
Kansas fans there. They were obnoxious.
Yeah, I shook his hand and I was like, "This is cool for you. Good for you." You know what I mean? I hate my life right now, but this is awesome for you. And this is a good comment. Another good comment, Johnny. Texas had an NFL type offense till Sark, and that's why they're behind in development. You saw Texas and Mac Brown, have more of a pro style than what you had obviously under Charlie Strong and his revolving door of offensive coordinators, and then Tom Herman and his battering ram offense led by a potential fullback playing quarterback. That's not knocking Sam. I'm just saying we didn't have to treat him that way. We made him into a fullback the way that he ran that offense. Texas has a long history of running back success, more so than the quarterback position or more so than the wide receiver position, which was why it was a little bit frustrating the last couple of years to not really have the type of backs. And maybe it's just that we're spoiled, but you didn't have the same, and we said it all the time here on the channel, you did not have the same explosiveness. You didn't have the ability to break tackles. But go back decades in Texas football history, and we almost always have a back that can A, take the top off of defense, B, break tackles, extend plays, and somebody that you can really lean on in that running game. And that's another thing that y'all were talking about earlier. These backs on these good teams, naturally we remember them a little bit more. Think of a Deontay Foreman and what he did under was it Charlie? Yeah. Think about Deontay Foreman and what he did. Very, very special year. So where does he fall, in Texas running back rankings? Again, we can do a whole show on that because it is a real blast, man. It's fun. Jamal only won 1,000-yard season. I would assume this is 2007.
Yeah.
But again, you got to think as a freshman, you're splitting a backfield with Vermont Taylor, Selvin Young, and then obviously Big Daddy Vince Young was going to get a few carries himself. And so, this kind of started the whole RBU, Earl Campbell, the great.
So I was looking up while you're talking the Bijan Jamal argument. So in 7 less games, Bijan has 400 more all-purpose yards and 3 more touchdowns. So I do think it's fair to say he is definitely the most talented and per game basis the best producer of those two, and for the number 4 spot. But Jamal does have the natty, and he does have a 1,600-yard season played on 3 really good teams. So I can see the argument both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you said is perfect. Is he the most talented? Does he have the most skill of any back Texas has ever had? And he definitely has an argument for it. That guy is special. He's borderline alien. Not many people on this planet, this planet's history can do what Bijan can do on a football field. And so again, shout out to Deontay in that 2,000-yard season. One of the only bright spots on that team. It was tough. Mr. Freshwater, we did kind of touch on this earlier. We asked we had a question. Someone asked if this is the most talented, Sark offense. And I think that, me and Evan went back and forth between 2023 and 2026, his current team, obviously. you can make really, really good arguments because you have Adonai Mitchell, you have Xavier Worthy, you have a better offensive line, probably a little bit deeper overall in the backfield. But Quinn's not Arch. And again, this isn't trying to compare the two, or you know what I mean when I say that. Get into the fan comparison of the two where it's like, oh, no, I have to have this guy, or no, this guy's better. Not doing that. Arch has got bigger upside. Arch's legs are a major part of this. Arch, his ability to make some of the big time throws is, I mean, it's not a knock on Quinn. It's just Arch can do a few things differently than your standard college quarterback for any school. Doesn't matter where they're at. So, yeah, no kidding, Ingrid. That would help the fan base out a lot. Just one more. It's been 20 years. About time. You know, we need it. I don't know. Yeah, but against Texas Tech, he has a monster season, but that play scared Herman and held him back. I mean, that's potentially true because that was early in that season or early in that game, or sorry, early in the season. Yeah, I think it was like our fourth game. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but you're talking about the COVID year. That's when that happened. Okay, man, I can't remember what point of the season that was. Yeah, but you know, no disrespect to Sam with the comments. I mean, about Herman and how he treated him. He definitely was a warrior, man. Talk about somebody that loves the university as much as anybody else, and you know, you
like battering ram. That's basically how it was used.
Yeah, no, exactly what it was. We said, hey, we're gonna Tim Tebow this offense. You know, 10 years after Tebow, and that type of play was a thing. But anyways, it's over. This is an insane list. Earl, Priest, Ricky, and Ricky being in the same backfield is crazy.
And you know what, too? Like when you're looking at that list, Jonathan Gray, if he doesn't get injured, he's probably a guy that ends up being a pretty darn good running back at the University of Texas. Like, I mean, that's one of those dudes that injuries can be unfortunate. And
I still blame Alito. They ran that kid to death up there.
Yep.
They did. I mean, and again, sorry to any Alito coaches that may hear this, but I mean, I'm sure there's different coaching staff by now, but no, they ran that kid to death up there. So this offense for Texas, Nash, let me ask you, give me a points per game, shot in the dark. What does this offense average total points per game? You think it's a top 10 number in the country? Give me your thoughts.
I want to say in the 34-point range. That's just off the top of my head. I'd have to go back and look at the stats, but I mean, it feels like I think they're going to be a little bit more explosive than they were with Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Worthy. It really, I have a lot of faith in Hollywood Smothers, and I'm blanking right now, but I would lean towards like 34.7 points per game, but no, that's a little bit less than the 35.8 that we had in 2023. Maybe some ball control comes into factor, but I don't know. I think it's going to be a really, really explosive offense that, you know, if people are upset that, you know, we're not a certain, you know, rank in the country, it is what it is, right? But as long as we're winning games, I'm not gonna be complaining.
Maybe into that. Evan, give me a shot in the dark on total points per game that we average.
So Indiana was third in the country this year at 41.5, which I don't think that's what we're talking about. The top SEC offensive competitors was Ole Miss. They had 37, and that was 10th on the dot. So 37 is about where you're looking to get, and I think the year before it was even around that it was 36 for the year before, the number 10 team. So I think they're probably in 35, 36 territory. Like I said earlier, I think there's going to be at least two more games this year that you're actually going to have a blowout for. I mean, Texas didn't blow people out last year. So I think they can do that in week one. I think they can do that in week three. And I think they got it in them for one of the SEC games. And that's what also was frustrating. You did beat Kentucky and Mississippi State, and even Arkansas. Like they kind of blew them out, but they didn't really blow them out. I think they're good for like three of those next year. And even if they win some of these games close and play the ball control game and win a 17-10 game, I still like 36 and like 12th in the nation is where you're at. And I don't think I know people are in top 10 or bust offense, natty or bust, but you enter the playoffs averaging 36 points per game and you're a 10-win team, people are not going to be complaining. Maybe with the 10 wins if it's not 11, but yeah,
Texas average.
People find a way. They'll find a way.
Yeah. I mean, I guarantee you, like that, you could go 11-1. There will be quips from somebody.
We didn't do it right.
No, we didn't do it right. Well, remember this one game? We should have won that one game by 24 instead of 23. Let me tell you this: if Texas averages 34, as Nash said, or 36, as Evan said, they're making the college football playoffs. They're winning 10+ games because the defense is still going to be pretty capable, especially as long as it stays healthy, especially on the back end of that defense. But yeah, I mean, you go back to Vince Young, and you're like, oh man, this offense went out and averaged, over 40 points a game, one of the top scoring offenses in the country. This is a different schedule. The Ohio State, of course, that offense played Ohio State, but Ohio State comes to town. You've got a Jim Knowles defense now, a Jim Knowles led defense now with Tennessee being your first conference game. You got Brent Venables in Oklahoma, okay, and Texas lit them up in the second half 2 years ago. But that was against a broken Oklahoma team, after an offense that couldn't cross midfield for, 3 quarters or the first half, whatever it was. The schedule's a lot tougher, a lot more defensive-minded coaches. Blake Baker and LSU will be in year 3 as far as his defensive scheme. They've upgraded talent. Mike Elko's a defensive coach who's continuing to, I hate to say it, it's doing good things with A&M. They developed their defensive talent pretty well. Arkansas can't be any worse on defense than they were a year ago. There's just almost zero chance that that's possible. We'll see, though. I was looking through the Arkansas schedule earlier today. Those dudes lost a game by 1, twice by 3 points, I think twice by 6 points, and then they had another single-digit loss in there. And so it's like, man, eventually maybe they win a couple of those games and start to turn the corner. Maybe not. I have no idea. But a lot of good defenses on that schedule. Florida comes to town again. They're going to have a pretty strong back end of their defense, and they always have at least a decent defensive line. And so, yeah, if you win an average, 34 points a game, then you'd have a lot of fans of ours saying, man, that's not super sexy. That's not national championship caliber. The 05 team averaged way more. They were better. Well, no crap. They won a national championship and dethroned USC. But that to me would be a really good, telltale sign for how the season went as far as a win total. And yeah, Chris, they sure do. And so maybe my guy Billy Lucci and a few others can, they can pipe down a little bit talking about our schedule, and what that looks like. Now,
well, also, on that topic, let me cut it for 1 second because
go on.
I've heard a lot of people talk about no Georgia, Alabama on this schedule. Hey, they've played Georgia 3 times the last 2 years. It's getting stale. We know what's going to happen. Alabama is not the team to worry about next year. And maybe I'll be biting my words in a year's time, but I don't think that's the team in the SEC that I'm really concerned about. They don't know who their quarterback's going to be. They lost a lot of talent. Already had a more talented team last year. Didn't do all that much with it. So now I'm not that high on them. I think I'm probably higher on Ole Miss coming into the year than them. And you got to play Ole Miss, and you got to play at LSU, which is going to be really tough late in the season with Kiffin having a chance to get his team and hit
night game probably.
Good. Yeah, exactly. And you're still getting A&M and Oklahoma, which we'll see how they are next year. But if you're looking at preseason, the 2 favorites in the SEC are Texas and Georgia, and then right behind them is a group of 3 with LSU, A&M, and Oklahoma. So that's 3 of the top 4 hardest opponents right there for Texas. So I'm not fully buying this bad schedule, and then you have Ohio State on top of it. I think they're good enough to do it, but that's 4 tough SEC games and a top 5 team in the nation right there.
There's 4 playoff teams on the schedule from last year. Go ahead. Sorry, Dash.
I was just going to say, when you're looking at the teams to score above 33.9 points per game in the SEC the last 2 years since Texas joined, there's only been 5 teams out of 32 teams to do that. So if we're hitting like 34 points per game, or like Evan, 36, 35, this is a really, really good mark in the SEC. Yeah. Over the last 2 years. Like, this is a really, really good offense. So
absolutely agree.
This is a league that it's dominated by depth and defense, and you see that in the teams. There's some non-explosive teams that are in there, which is crazy. Like, to your Arkansas point, I don't think people realize, like, Arkansas was just a decent defense away from being a potential, like, legit contender to make it to the playoffs, because they had a lot of close games.
Yeah, they were well coached on offense. They, naturally KJ provides, a schematic advantage because he can run the football the way that he can. He has a big arm. But yeah, I think it's still too early to tell on Mizzou. Again, I made the comment on last week's show with Inside Texas, like, anytime they get a real big tough opponent at home, they've kind of laid down a little bit.
I will say,
I'm not super worried there.
to Mr. Freshwater's point in the chat, 'cause I saw it, Texas gets a really favorable scheduling for the first 5 games. Pre-bye for Oklahoma, before Tennessee is UTSA, before Ohio State, Texas State. So you could come out of that 5-0 because you're getting favorable schedule, but then they play 3 straight home games and then Missouri, and then at LSU. So that's a weird spot where you're playing 3 straight weeks of football at home, and then your really big one is the week after that. But you're still going on the road to a good SEC team. So that's going to be one that's going to come up, and maybe Texas is undefeated or they've got 1 loss here. You cannot overlook that game at all.
See, it's the exact opposite of this year. We're gone all of October.
Exactly. Literally the exact opposite.
Yeah, and I mean, that figures, to be honest. I mean, I get it, I guess. I do love the fact that the ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference, features schools from Cal, Berkeley, and Stanford, but hey, it's neither here nor there. And people were laughing at Texas when they were
coast.
Yeah, literal coast to coast, baby. And yeah, I thought it was over 50, Chris. I didn't want to get it wrong. If I'm not wrong though, I think it was Art Briles and Baylor Vomit that broke that record for Texas. I could have been wrong. Don't even get me started on that. I could go off and talk for a long time. Now Johnny agrees with you. Alabama is not one of my top probably 5 worries in the SEC, to be honest with you. I'd have more concern with right now with playing in Oklahoma, with playing in A&M, than I would with Alabama. I do not think that that pass happy offense. I don't think that that they're super tough. They're not obviously not near as physical or nasty as they were under Nick Saban. I mean, most programs aren't ever going to be as nasty or physical as a Nick Saban led team. But let me tell you, LSU is going to be tough. I know it's year 1. If Texas, and I said this last week as well, if Texas had the Tennessee games and the LSU games flip-flopped to where you have a Tennessee team that doesn't have a ton of depth defensively, and they have to go through their conference slate, they're going to get worn down a little bit. You saw Tennessee on defense last year to end the season. It was ugly. Go look at what Oklahoma did to them. But now on the flip side of that, Knowles has more time to implement his system, to get the guys caught up to speed on what he's trying to do. But I'd rather play LSU so much earlier, man, before Lane gets that offense really, really humming, because Lane Kiffin is instant offense. I don't care how he acts on Twitter, how he handles coaches' searches. That dude knows offense, and he knows it in a hurry. LSU is going to be tough when Texas gets down there. There's a chance that, you have night games at Neyland, hopefully not, at Baton Rouge, and then at Kyle Field as well. The schedule gets tough,
that's a pretty strong chance. I mean,
2 out of 3 at minimum. 2 of the 3 at minimum. I can guarantee you that.
Well, I credit Pete Goldman a lot for this offseason, because it could be scarier for LSU. Like, Keywan Lacey is staying at Ole Miss. So is Trinidad. We'll see if he's playing football. Chambliss. And not a lot of the defensive guys really leaked over to LSU, apart from Prince Will and Uman. So they could be a scarier team than they actually are, because he didn't get many freebies. He had to do a lot of work in the portal. And, yeah, compare that with having Death Valley. And that Neyland, just the trip. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of Texas fans that make their way up, and that's going to be a fun weekend no matter what. Early in the year, too. That's fun.
A lot of orange.
Yeah. A lot of
Yeah, I definitely plan on being up there. Checking out Rocky Top in person, man. That's one of my favorite venues in all of college football. I think you hate Rocky Top? Good
dude.
Lord, man.
Look, I'll tell you. No, I'll tell you what ruined it for me. Tennessee has that god awful T-ball ballpark that they play in, and they had a really windy day to right field, and they were playing some scrub team, and I mean they're pouring it on with home runs, and the amount of times that I heard good old Rocky, I was like, my ears could literally never hear it again, and I'd be the happiest soul on the face of the earth. Like I was like, what is that? What does that sound? The amount of times that they played it at this one just particular point. I was like, it literally ruined it for me. I'm like, okay, we're done.
I'll never forget being, what was I, 11 years old, 12 years old, and watching 2000 Oklahoma absolutely dust Texas. And about probably a little past halftime, my brother and I went outside to throw the football. And at some point, my dad walks outside, and I'm humming Boomer Sooner. And he's like, what the hell are you doing? What's wrong with you? And I didn't know. I'm 12 years old. I didn't know, hey, don't do that. But I was like, dude, I've heard it 200 times in the last hour. Like, how do I not have that stuck in my head? So I get it. I get it, Nash. I get what overhearing a song can do. I mean, it happens. Texas versus LSU game will decide who plays Georgia in the SEC championship. I mean, honestly, man, I can see it. Georgia's going to be good. Georgia's going to be better than they were this year.
They're going to do the same thing, be quiet for 12 games, and they won the SEC.
Yeah. The Kirby way, man. A lot of respect for that program. I'll tell you what, that Tennessee orange is pretty gross, though, and that's coming from a guy who attended a school that was that same exact color. Kind of embarrassing almost to put it on the uniform. And so, yeah, that is they're going to be really dang good on defense, man. The old Georgia Dogs, no shocker there. Ingrid, I'm not excited about it. I'm telling you, they're going to be tough. That's going to be a really, really nasty game. I'm not saying Texas can't win that game, but the storylines alone, Arch Manning goes into Baton Rouge and Tiger Stadium, and I guarantee you almost I kind of feel like we'll get I don't know. It might be all 3 dang night games for those big 3 road games, because it just kind of feels like UT versus UT, Neyland Stadium, the first conference game of the year. It kind of feels like they're going to do that to us.
They're going to try and checkerboard us when we go into Neyland. Also, like the amount of storylines that you have with LSU, like you mentioned, is just beyond Arch Manning and all these other guys. You have the Steve Sarkisian versus Lane Kiffin. Like that's the Pete Carroll offensive guys going at it head to head. Like these guys have been good friends for a long time. One thing that I'd pay good money for is to just be invited into that group chat with him and Kirby Smart and a few of the other guys, because that is probably going to be one of the more entertaining group chats leading up to that game. And like I've talked about this before, like the amount of like trolling that Lane Kiffin is going to do with Steve Sarkisian, and it's just all in good fun. That's going to be a real fun week leading up to the game if both teams are doing really well.
Yeah.
Evan, any comments about the newly acquired analyst that Texas hired today?
Oh, yes. That was so under the radar. It happened like right as the basketball game was starting. I don't know a whole lot about him. He's worked at TCU in Tennessee both times. It seemed like quality control was the title he kept getting put as, which is that just a blank title. It can mean whatever you want it to mean. But I assume he's probably something involved with defensive coverages and just a Muschamp guy who Will wanted to bring him along. And, there was so much talk about him being able to bring people over. And this is kind of the first guy that's officially speaking he's done so with. So right. I don't know a whole lot. I think Joe's working on that right now to learn more. But, it seems just defense scheme, making sure things are working the way Muschamp wants it to in the staff.
I'm really hoping we can add a little scouting. I hope that, he's able to, break down some defensive film from the opponents and add a benefit there. But, yeah, again, that role could mean anything, as you just said, Evan, and it's one of Muschamp's guys. So, naturally, I'm excited about it. Anytime you bring in a defensive guy over from Georgia, I don't care who it is. It could be the water boy, but he sits on the defensive end of the bench. I'm going to be a little bit happy about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
A funny comment right there. Moment, Nash. This Texas team is national championship caliber. We're still a long ways out, man. I can't wait for the season. This off season is going to be the longest one we've ever had, in my opinion, just because we want to get back on the football field. To
some people, I mean, when baseball's doing good, the season tends to go pretty fast. So if you're a baseball fan, this off season's going to go pretty fast. But
it should be decent on the diamond. Hey, real quick, let's talk for a second, man. What went wrong for Texas that second half against Auburn? You saw Dalen Swain had a really, really strong first half. You saw Jordan Pope foul a few three-point shooters in the second half. Any takeaways from the hoops loss at Auburn?
It's so funny. Vogie Titus, I forgot exactly how I worded it, but like foul involved, I think is what I said. No one draws more or commits more fouls than Montes Vogie Titus, and people hate him for that. Like the Auburn fans hated him. He and Jovic were going at it down low, exchanging European grunts and things like that. But Texas has a foul problem. Miller's brought it up, and they just so many either bad fouls or they were scared of fouling, so they gave up a free jumper. And then I think this was one of the first loss where I was really upset about how Miller coached by the end of the game. The offense was just so stagnant, just nothing going. A lot of ISO ball, it's 4 seconds left in the shot clock. Here you go, Swain. Here you go, Mark. Good luck. Mm-hmm. So many shots within the last 3 seconds of the clock. Vogie Titus did not try to get the ball in the low post and score, even though he had a clear size advantage. it was just frustrating. It was the same feeling of the losses they had earlier in the year. And then, they're probably going to go to Oklahoma this weekend and have a great game. It's just bipolar team with that does no depth, especially in the guards aren't playing very well and there's no center depth. So it's going to be hard for them to make the tournament, but you're on the road against a good team. You just got to have a better second half than that.
Color me shocked that Texas had a foul problem.
Yeah, right.
Like color me shocked. I mean,
maybe one sport.
If there was, I'm not a big betting guy, right? But if there was a lock, man, just hit the over on the foul. Hit the over on the fouls for every Texas game that you have. Doesn't matter if we're getting fouled. Doesn't matter if we're fouling the other team. Just hit the over on combined fouls.
Fouling is the name of the game for us when it comes to the defensive end. I mean, yeah, but I definitely agree with you, Evan. Like, Vokietitis, like, I need a little more assertion. I need a little, demand the basketball when you have that type of size advantage inside. You got to get Dalen Sway and Tremont Mark the ball with a little bit more time on the clock to operate. But yeah, just the movement on offense was very poor in the second half. And I don't know if they were just, hey, these guys are hot. We'll try to get a look, and if it's not there, we always have them in the very back pocket to swing the ball to with no time left on the clock to get a shot off. But yeah, I mean, I was unable to watch the first half, able to watch the second half, and man, I sure wish that situation was flip-flop for me because that was a very tough watch. Again, Miller's called it pretty plain and dry. He's not going to hide what this team's issue is, and so you don't really have the scoring inside that you need. You're not really playing defense without fouling. That right there is going to put you in a little bit of a hole. Pretty worried about the trip to Oklahoma and Norman this week with that team, just because they've taken some really odd and tough losses lately. Texas comes to town, a little bit of a wounded animal type situation. I think y'all know what I'm talking about there. I'm not saying that Texas can't go or won't go win that game, but man, it'll be difficult. Same way as difficult week in and week out in the SEC. I don't think there's any truly great teams in the SEC when it comes to basketball this year. So I think Texas can play with almost everyone. I think they have to play a hell of a lot better than they just played in that second half out there in the jungle in Auburn. That was a tough loss. And, Ingrid, I respect you for this. Because I'm going to tell you what, I poured a lot of heart, soul, and energy into Texas basketball, baseball as well, of course. But there's been some, I've benefited from that relationship a little bit. I saw a couple of titles in my lifetime. Winning a Final Four, man, that would mean a lot. But I don't blame you for taking that season off. It's all Nash. Evan, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it just kind of sucks when you have a good lead at the half, and then just the second half just completely. It's just it's almost the exact opposite of the Georgia game. Right, where the first
There's a little bit of concern the way that this team has came out in the second half. A few times in this season, the A&M loss, he looked absolutely abysmal. That loss is because of the first 4 or 5 minutes of that second half. But yeah, man, they haven't really done anything, giving it up.
I do appreciate Sean Miller. He's gonna tell you what he's not gonna sugarcoat anything. I do appreciate the authenticity that you get from him in the press conferences.
I mean, I don't know how you feel, Evan, but I mean, I love Sean Miller. I can already see his imprint on our basketball program. And this is a guy, assuming he's given the proper time, within a couple of years is going to have Texas, at least back on guaranteed tournament level, being a top 20 team. We saw multiple coaches do that, at Texas between Rick Barnes, Shaka Smart, Chris Beard, those guys. And so time will tell, man. We have the women, at least the women are, they're loaded and they play defense most of the time without fouling. Do a really good job of it, actually. So, no, just kidding, man. It's fun. We'll keep
Vic's hilarious, man. We can be beating the ever-loving crap out of a team, and Vic's over there looking like Texas is down 80 points. He's jacket's coming off. He is quickly this, because I hadn't followed the women's basketball team much before this year. Just watching Vic Schaefer, man, that dude has easily become one of my favorite human beings on this planet. He is. I love his coaching. He's a good coach.
Like you said, authenticity, man. he's just a guy that does things the right way in my opinion. And that's not to say like Sean Miller doesn't. It's just like obviously Vic's team is having a lot of success. He's been doing this for a long time at Texas. He wants it. You just got to take that next step, man. Not an easy thing to do, though. You know how the top of women's basketball has been for a long time. You come in, it's always, you know, hey, this 3 or 4 teams of this group here that have a chance to win a national title. And every time you say it, signs off with old praise the Lord and hook 'em horns. I mean, that's just the good stuff. That'll hit you in your feels a little bit. But all right, guys, we're running a little bit late. I'm going to get Evan and Nash out of here. Y'all go enjoy the rest of your Wednesdays. Thanks for watching Inside Texas with us. Please, if you haven't done so already, throw a like on the video. Go share it with a friend. It was fun. We kind of talked about the Texas offense. Went down memory lane, talking backs, receivers, rankings, all that fun stuff. But, yeah, y'all get out of here. Go have a good rest of your Wednesday. I'll see you tomorrow night on Inside Texas.